Excuse me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with drdan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan. I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in English and in French, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV therapy and coaching services at 301-325-1550. And our website can be found at lifecoachddanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our 7th episode of season 8, a very special guest and meditation expert, Kara Goo. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Kara, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. So a little bit about my background. I come from a corporate world, sort of regular, everyday person for a long time. And a few years ago, got hit with a really intense year. From May to November, I experienced loss after loss within our family, starting with my sister-in-law, who was also a close friend of mine, taking her life. And just in kind of chronological order, I think about 3 weeks after that, our dog died. A few weeks after that, my stepdad was having some issues that caused a surgery to his brain stem. So that was a very iffy time, and he was in recovery for a while, doing very well now. After that, my mother-in-law was hit by a motorbike while she was crossing the street. So she was in the hospital for a long time. And then by November of that year, by Thanksgiving, my stepmom was in the ICU and needed a heart transplant, and had a heart transplant just after Thanksgiving of that year. We also found out, we had a very close friend of ours who'd been in our wedding, who was having some mysterious issues, and it turned out he had a brain tumor. He passed away the next year. So this was like one of those things where every time the phone would ring, I would get, it seemed like it would be terrible news. And I really just started to not recognize life anymore. I kind of started to just be on this high alert, like what's next, what's next. And it was through that I found meditation, because I'd been very drawn to meditation for many years, but never really took to it. I would try it casually out of curiosity. And I wouldn't really stay with the practice. I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing. When my life started feeling like a house of cards that was falling, I really felt the call, like, okay, I have been interested in meditation. Maybe there's something there to help me to get through this really difficult time. What happened was I found a teacher. I really felt like I needed to properly enter into that world of meditation instead of just dipping a toe in and seeing if I could figure it out. Clearly that wasn't working for me. But finding a teacher who had methods and had actual like step-by-step, and then also could back up like, well, we do it this way, but the reason that we do it is because your body responds in this way. When you breathe in this way, the body, the brain, the nervous system responds in this way. And that was so key for me, because I'm a very practical person. So having that intellectual understanding along with the experience really, really helped me. And it was important that I gain a good understanding of it and developed a habitual practice, rather than just kind of like, I'll try it, and then maybe in a few days I'll try it again. So I did develop an ongoing practice, starting small, starting with like 5 minutes, and then building up a little bit at a time, so that I wasn't trying to just sit down and stay without, not thinking, quote unquote, for like 20 minutes at a time. That was a lot to bite off when I had no experience. So really starting small, taking like little steps at a time to increase. And I was able to finally figure out, how can I integrate this into my day? And so after having a practice of my own and noticing, how it made me feel, how it changed my responses, how it changed my relationships. And definitely like low hanging fruit for me was that stress reduction, stop getting out of survival mode, feeling that inner peace, not being so whacked around by the external. When I get that news, it doesn't throw me off kilter as much. It's still, I'm a human being, and I definitely feel things when things go haywire, but it's, I have a much stronger core now as far as being able to take those hits with more grace. And I have children, so I get triggered a lot because
I got one too. I mean, two of them.
Yeah. So sometimes I wonder if that's their job, like figuring out mama's buttons. But, being able to not be so reactive in that sort of environment too has been such a huge win as well. So that's a little bit about how I came to it and how it's affected me.
Well, that's a very interesting story that you got there, Kara, because I myself in the beginning, because I've been doing meditation for the past 6 years, okay? I try to keep it as consistent as possible. I have not really increased in terms of the amount of time that I am in the meditation stage, okay? But I try to do around 25 to 30 minutes, give and take. And but here's the thing, a lot of people in my practice have asked me, when do you know that meditation actually does work? And how is it possible to just sit down on your butt and think about nothing when someone is going through a tremendous amount of stress, anxiety, depression? How can someone just clear their mind and be able to go that process of clearing everything from what they're thinking about, what they're stressing about, and allowing just emptiness to occur? So what is, I mean, the person, the teacher that you went through, what are, if they teach you like step by step, what are the first step to take to start moving forward with meditation?
Yeah, it's a great point, because that was the big hurdle for me in the beginning, was thinking, this is totally natural. All I have to do is sit there and not think. And that's really hard to do. Like, you kind of need to get to master level before you can just turn off your thoughts. The breath is a huge shortcut. The breath is an integral part of my meditation practice and what I teach, because it really does, it affects your nervous system. Your nervous system ties the brain and the body together. And if you can control your nervous system, then you can have the ability to come out of fight or flight and to come into that rest and restore. That's going to be imperative to being able to not so much stop your thoughts. Part of the meditation training is kind of keeping our expectations aligned with what is possible. So imagining that you're just going to be able to sit down and let go completely of the thoughts, especially as a beginner, is maybe not a very attainable expectation. Perhaps framing it so that you understand that your thoughts, it's actually kind of a training of becoming more and more aware, becoming more mindful, because so often we have these thoughts that do just, suddenly organically just show up. And what often happens is we just notice that we've started thinking about something. I sometimes call it like the thought train. Oh, I got on the thought train and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know I was at the station. It's not necessarily like this choice where we go, I'm going to choose to get distracted now. It's like something just happens and then we notice, oh, I am like completely lost in thought right now. And that catching of, oh, I'm in thought, and then redirecting, like just coming back, making the choice to detangle ourselves from that thought and to come back to where we are in our practice. Am I focusing on the breath? Am I doing breath work? Am I just in this expansive, calm state? Whatever it is, wherever we are in our practice, because for me, there are different phases
Okay.
and different pillars of a practice that we pass through. But and then there's the compassion that comes with that. So it's not the beating ourselves up. This is another part of the training, if you will, where it's like, okay, I've caught myself. I'm on the thought train. I'm coming back. Now, what story am I telling myself about how good I am at meditation or not? Or what this means, or if I like it, or, whatever. It's like as neutrally as we can and with as much compassion as we can, just going, oh, okay, I may have gotten caught on the thought train, but I recognized it and I came back. And what does that say about how mindful I'm becoming and how I'm becoming the master of awareness? Because I recognize it, because everybody's doing that all day long. We're kind of just drifting around and just, floating around on these thoughts. And a lot of them are cyclical. A lot of them are things that we keep rehashing. And so being able to be disciplined and noticing and coming back, I mean, that's huge. Sharon Salzberg is a master meditator and of the Buddhist tradition. And she has said that meditation isn't so much about not thinking, it's about noticing that we're thinking and coming back. And that is a big part of the practice. And so if we just change our expectations and understand that that's a big part of it, we can kind of let ourselves off the hook a little bit, but also keep that discipline of saying, well, we keep trying. We don't just say, okay, well, the whole point is just to sit here and be in a swirling thought whirlwind, It's like, well, no, I'm getting better every time and I'm making improvements and I'm catching myself and I'm coming back.
Because I've read that I think it's Dr. Deepak Chopra that said that the brain produces 1 thought per second, which average out around 70,000 thoughts per day. So if, let's say, we do abide by what's the statement of this doctor is, how can someone manage 70,000 thoughts and be able to just kind of like put a bridge or break the bridge between this production of thoughts and just kind of like stop and just, I mean, even being self-aware of those thoughts really is the reason as to why they feel depressed, why they feel anxious. So how can you change the nature of these thoughts? That's the question.
That's a wonderful question. And so some of that naturally happens through the practice of meditation, because as we get stiller, there's, we can start talking about energy and frequency and high frequency thoughts and low frequency thoughts and thought patterns and things like that. Meditation naturally increases our frequency and raises our frequency, which is going to have a positive knock-on effect of the quality of the thoughts that we do think outside of meditation. Meditation is this sneaky thing that like you do for, a small portion of your day, but it's cumulative. And the more you do it, the more it starts to infiltrate the rest of your day, and it starts to infiltrate your behavior, and it starts to infiltrate your thoughts. Your thought patterns begin to change. We can take that even further and deeper by actually becoming cognizant of the quality of the thoughts that we're thinking. And like you're saying, being aware of it, catching it, and understanding that a lot of the things that we're thinking, a lot of the things we're telling ourselves aren't true. We often are narrating this story and cycling through these thoughts, and we don't have a complete picture, but we're filling out the picture with our past that may not be relevant to what's happening now, our traumas, how we were raised, all of this conditioning, all of this patterning that we have. So it can definitely go beyond meditation into, I'm sure, a lot of the work that you do with your clients, where it's that awareness, that repatterning, that kind of ownership of the story that we're telling ourselves. But meditation in and of itself can be a foundational way that we just bring greater awareness and mindfulness to our lives, and increasing our ability to affect change positively, because we are raising our vibration, so to speak.
So do you feel that, is there like a specific time of the day where the subconscious mind will absorb more, more benefits than if you do it mid-morning or mid-afternoon? Because what I've read, I'm not sure exactly if this you would agree or not, Kara, it said that, especially self-guided meditation, if we look at that, where positive affirmation are being looped and repeated over and over again, as this is what really is productive for the brain, as we're being taught in school when we're in high school, repeat the thing over and over again to learn them by heart. So if you do that before you go to sleep, where you are at the stage of a REM sleep, right where the subconscious mind opens and the conscious mind closes, do you think this is more beneficial night than day?
My experience is the beginning of your day and the end of your day. So like you're saying, there are some sweet spots, like because it all is dependent, like your experience is going to be dependent on the state of consciousness that you're in. And as you're saying, there are transitionary times where we're naturally going deep into the subconscious, like with sleep, or coming out of the subconscious. And those are really powerful times, those kind of in between times. So there are a lot of reasons why early morning is very beneficial from a physiological standpoint, from the fact that you haven't engaged, you've kind of cleansed out your thoughts. So you've got like a break, you're coming out of a break of conscious thinking and experience where, you may have had a really highly charged day the day before. And so you might have very hot thoughts, like as you're at the end of the day, because there's been a lot of firing going on. But when you have that sleep part, you get that, I think of it as like a cleansing and a washing out, where you're fresher in the morning. So you kind of get a different engagement early in the morning. But there are other physiological reasons, such as, if you do it before you've eaten, then you're not expending energy on digestion. That's more energy that's going up into the brain to give you a more powerful experience. Right. So I prefer to meditate in the morning before I've had breakfast. But I also have some amazing experiences as I'm falling asleep. So before I fall asleep, where I start entering, this is much more kind of advanced stuff, but I'm not actually trying to meditate, but I'm awake, but I'm experiencing definitely like a higher level of consciousness, seeing different geometries and colors and rooms and things like that. So it's definitely a very pliable time when we are shifting from the conscious into the subconscious. In those are very sweet spots. But I always tell people too, that the best time to meditate, if you're, having a busy modern life, is when you can. So, not to use it as an excuse to say like, oh, I had a meeting at 7:00 this morning. So rather than, have my meditation at lunchtime when I've already had breakfast and I'm fully into my day. And because there are also like planetary reasons where the planetary energies are more in alignment with your physical body and your energy bodies at, certain times of the day. So it's like nice to know this stuff so that we can make use of it, but not use it as excuses to be like, well, I didn't have the optimum time, so I just didn't do it,
Yes, that's a good point. And also, I think, through my studies and through my degree and all, I found a reason as to why people are so depressed and dealing with anxiety is because, and maybe you may or may disagree with this, Kara, what is the last thing that people watch on TV before going to sleep?
News,
right? Okay.
often.
As
Yeah.
you know, the news are always depressing, always war, a crime, whatever. Like and this is what they absorb the last thing before they go to sleep. So what does the brain do? it records everything, it feeds it to the subconscious mind. And by the time that they wake up, the only thing that the mind has processed is negativity. So when they wake up, they're already like, ugh, another day, another depressing thing, another depressing moment. So that, and then they continue on that cycle and they don't realize how much damage, because as you said, with meditation, it's day in and day out that you do it over and over again that you're going to see results. Same thing for hearing and experiencing negativity. So why can people break that pattern, that habit, into doing something more productive?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing point. I always encourage my clients to be very careful about the diet that they're taking in through their eyes,
Yes, good point.
through their ears. And it's a very important point. You know, there are so many little tricks that we can do to improve our experience with different things. Because like you say, if you're watching the news or reading the news right before you go to bed, you're consciously getting into a fear state because very little of the news we take in is not alarming. There's also the blue light, you know, that's upsetting our circadian rhythm. So if you're
Reading
you're engaging with
yes.
blue light, you know, on your phone, on your, depending on the type of TV you have, that's also interfering with your ability to have restful sleep. There are glasses that you can get to block that blue light out, but there are all these different things like that. And even like the news is sort of more obvious, I think, as far as like, well, we can see, like, if you start to pay attention, like how do you feel when you watch the news? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel safe? Do you feel calm? You know, those might be hard states to reach if you're really engaging in the news a lot. But there's other media as well that it's like, okay, how do you feel if you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, like right before bed? Does it make you feel good about yourself or not? Like, are you feeling unworthy? Are you feeling jealous? Are you feeling, you know, upset? Or, you know, all of this stuff is again, it's this diet of what we're taking in that is affecting our psychology. It's affecting our living experience. These are choices that we make all day long, and they can be little low-hanging fruit. Like, is there a better choice for me in this moment than turning on different media that I can understand through observation how it makes me feel? Little adjustments to our experience.
Adjustment. And that's the thing that a lot of people suffer from now. It says that it takes around 45 to 60 days before you either break or adapt a new habit. Now, a lot of people, unfortunately, lack patience. They just want things to be immediate, like instant gratification. So, but at the same time, they fear that if they do something and they don't know what may happen, because like, for example, if they go to a psychiatrist, they do not want to be hypnotized because they say to themselves, well, I don't know what this psychiatrist is going to do. He may put things in my mind that's going to screw me up, whatever it is. So that's why meditation is kind of like self-hypnosis. They allow to hypnotize themselves by listening to positive affirmation that will allow them to guide their vision in a more productive way. But then again, they just don't have the patience, like going to the gym. Why in January, Kara, we see a lot of people with their New Year resolution going to the gym, all excited and all that. And by the month of March, you see tumbleweed at the gym.
Yeah.
You know, it's the habit, and people just feel that they want something easy. And it appears to me that even though meditation doesn't require you to go and bench press 500 pounds or anything of that sort, but yet it's very tough for the mind. So what can we encourage our listeners that are listening to the podcast on how to just get started? Just like try with 5 minutes, and then do this every week, and then 10 minutes, and then 15, and then 20. And then when can they really start seeing progress?
This is a great question. So exactly as you say, starting small, because integrating a meditation practice, carving out 5 minutes should be attainable. I mean, if you're dealing with anxiety on a continuous basis, like take a look. Are you enjoying that? Like, can you sacrifice 5 minutes to try to tackle this big problem? So, giving 5 minutes and then slowly, even a minute a week, do 5 minutes and then add a minute and add a minute, another minute after a few days. But what studies have shown, which is really interesting, is that there are noticeable changes to the prefrontal cortex, which is the front of the brain. It's your executive functioning. It's where the peace and the joy, the creativity, the altruism, that interconnection, all of that is associated with the prefrontal cortex, the prefrontal lobes. And they have measured that with just 8 weeks of 12 to 15 minutes of meditation, there are noticeable physical changes to the prefrontal cortex, the strengthening of that part of the brain. So that's a short amount of time, 8 weeks.
Yes.
And that was just that study where, I'm sure it could be much shorter, but that was the timeline that they were using. But starting with 5 minutes with the end goal of like getting to 12 minutes is attainable. Imagining yourself carving out 12 minutes out of your day for your health and for your relationships is really a pretty small ask for your health. So, and then there are guided meditations. There are a lot of guided meditations out there. I host a podcast called The Meditation Conversation, and I have lots of guided meditations out there covering a large range of duration, so that you can, if you just want to do 1 minute, you can find a 1 minute meditation. I also have a Learn to Meditate in 21 Days course that's self-study, but just like you talk about with the building the habit, it's purposely designed so that you take we start with small meditations where it's like, here's a 3-minute meditation, do this a few times, then we'll build up and we'll add more elements, we'll add more components. And then by the time you've taken this and you've engaged with the course every day for 21 days, you have a full-blown meditation practice that you can implement, and you've got all these guided meditations that you can use as much as you want to help you, because it can really help rather than just sitting there and trying to cultivate your own and guide yourself through your own meditation. To have a trusted leader who can guide you through those can really make all the difference as well.
If people can wait for coffee at Starbucks, which usually takes 25 minutes to get, and they could find 5 minutes out of their day to be able to meditate and to be able to invest in themselves, because the reality is that you're not investing in anyone else, but just your own health, mental health,
right,
physical health, spiritual health, and all that together. If they all work in synergy in a proper way, this is when you could actually find happiness. And a lot of people seem to think that happiness is only reserved to Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, or all the ones that have a tremendous amount of wealth. But this is so incorrect. Everyone can find their own definition of happiness. It doesn't mean that you have to have 500 digits in your bank account to be able to be defined as happiness. So again, it's all about how and what changes you want to start making in your life. And people are just so afraid to accept that if they put in the effort and the work into it, they could accomplish anything they want.
Yes, we are limitless, and meditation is a great pathway for us to experience that. And I love what you're saying about that pursuit of happiness, because so often we are entrenched in this culture that says that happiness is outside of us, and we need to align ourselves with something outside of us. We need to find the perfect partner. We need to get the bank account that has the magic number. We need to get the car that we don't have that, is going to make us happy. And so we have so many examples by now of people who have amounted incredible external success, and have taken their lives, because it's not the key. The happiness that we seek does not lie outside of us. We have to connect inwardly. We have to strengthen those connections within us. We have to clear things out, and we have to surface traumas so that they can be released. That is really how we start to become a more complete person, which is going to help us to experience that happiness and to surface that happiness. There really is no substitute. There are only distractions. The true path to happiness is an inward journey. It's not something that's going to come from outside of us. It absolutely will not.
That is so accurate. And how can our listeners find you, Kara, if they want to seek those 21 days of meditation and the course and so on and so forth?
Yes, thank you. So my website is karagoodwin.com. That's Kara with a K, Goodwin as it sounds.com. There is you can sign up right on the website to receive a free 10-minute guided meditation. So if you feel like you want to try just 10 minutes, that's also a pretty doable length of time. I kept saying 5 minutes, but 10 minutes is also great. Or you can download this and use it for 5 minutes and build up to 10. But that can be a great resource. That's free. You can also find the meditation immersion course on there. I have a program where we meet live every week. And I have a meditation retreat, that's coming up in October. That's going to be that's a very effective way to shift quickly, is to go into that retreat setting where we're really working specifically on that. And we're entering into this, this vibration and this environment that's going to support a quick shift and transformation. Those are really, really powerful. So all of that. And then the podcast that I mentioned, that's all free, of course. The meditation conversation is the podcast.
Okay, yeah, not .com.
Right, not .com.
Everyone is looking for self-guided meditation, Kara, but everyone is dealing with different problems. So do you customize the self-guided meditation, or is it already something pre-recorded, but they may not apply to their problem? So how does that go?
Yeah, they are more general, but there is quite a bit of diversity. Okay. So there's, on the podcast, for instance, if you search through, you can find a lot of different, they're different meditations that are focusing on different things. And also in the ongoing membership, there's a meditation library, and they have, in that library, there are all different kinds of meditations that are hitting all different kinds of issues. So.
Beautiful. Well, Kara, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. And I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners. Now, we hope that you have all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 8 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories, just like the one that you listened to today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step." Your goal may be big, and at times it may seem impossible and difficult. You will feel like you're failing and you're not getting anywhere. But perseverance, belief, and conviction in those small steps that you're taking towards your goal is what you will need to be confident about. Consistently follow your life mission, one step at a time, no matter how small the step may be. You will encounter many challenges in your journey, but it's really up to you to arrive to your destination. What makes the difference between a dreamer and a doer is a set of actions performed day in and day out that will transform your circumstances. Naysayers will always try their best to put stick in your wheels as you are pedaling towards achieving your goal. Question is, will you push through the sticks and keep going, or just stop pedaling? The answer is really up to you on how hungry you are to get to where you want to go. My name is Dr. DanamZallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.